Hi, folks. It's Keith, Victor Echo 3 Sierra Victor Quebec, and sometimes Victor Alpha 3 Kilo Echo India. What I thought I would do today is actually respond to some of the questions I get in class because, yes, I do teach the basic beginners level with the Long Island CW Club, and we get questions all the time. And I thought for those of you who are thinking about learning CW or Morse code, this might help a little bit. So I'm going to call this particular one expectation management. What do you think will happen? How quickly do you think it will happen? How good will you get? And so on. So I guess the first thing to say is expectation management. You got to decide if you're going to do it in a class or if you're going to do it on your own. I've done both. So I know the pros and cons of both. I think there's a lot of benefit to doing it in a class with other people because then you begin to realize all the things you screw up, other people are screwing up too. So it sort of levels the playing field a little bit and helps with your own ego as to how well you're doing. Now there are different programs out there. There are different apps out there. And I see if I go into some of the Facebook pages for beginner Morse code, I see all sorts of stuff people are promoting. When you get right down to it, you need a real damn good practice page. It's as simple as that. You need a practice page that is going to force you to think. And above all, you need a practice page that is going to teach you to learn the characters by sound. Absolutely the worst mistake you can make is to sit there and memorize all the dots and dashes, dot dash, and so on. Worst thing you can do, because when you get on the air, that's what your brain is going to be doing. You have to train your brain to listen to the letter and instantly translate it for you. So if you hear did it, you know that's an R. All right. So these are the things that people who are sitting out there worrying about, learn by sound. Don't memorize. Absolutely the worst thing you can do. And that was originally the way I was taught back in 1989-90. But it really does mess you up once you get on the air. So learn by sounds. There are lots of apps out there. I haven't found an app that will actually teach as well as what you would find in a class or as well as some of the web pages that are out there. When I started and I came back to Morse code, I used a web page. All right, and a very good one. And it got me, I'm going to say, halfway through. And that was about the time I discovered the Long Island Club and switched over there. And things took off a little bit better. But learn by sound, no memorizing. That's a really key thing. Get yourself a really good page. The apps are great if you're sitting somewhere. I had one, and if I was in a waiting room for someone, I would sit there and play the app. And it would teach me some of the sounds, different speeds I could set, and so on. It was good for that. But for learning the whole thing, no, definitely was not worth it. Something to keep in mind. Now, when I say a free practice page, the LICW Club actually has one on their main page. Look in the top right corner, and you can open it up and use it. I'd rather you come to class and do it that way, but it is there and it's free for anyone who wants to use. Now, the other thing, studying only gets you so far. That would be, I guess, my point. Well, I'm going to call that point 3. 1, learn by sounds. 2, get a good page. And 3, studying only gets you so far. You can sit there and you can study for the next 3 years. And unless you get on the air, you're not going to do it. People overstudy. People burn out from studying. People spend so much time trying to get perfect. And I think that's the real issue here. You're not going to be perfect when you get on the air, certainly in the first few times that you're out there, or maybe the first year that you're on the air. So don't get hung up on being perfect. And one of my mistakes, because I was on an app by myself at that time, not an app, but a web page, I would check my score. So I would, let's say it was 50 characters or numbers that were being sent. I would do all the copying, and then I'd go back and see what percent did I get right. And oh my goodness, I only got 90% right. That's awful. Not really. If you can get 66, 70, 80% right, you're actually doing really well. So don't get hung up on being perfect. When you are on the air, when there is noise, when there are people shooting up beside you, or in some cases on top of you, you're going to miss a lot of stuff. Your brain will help fill it in. So if someone is sending RST to you and you get the R and you get the T and you miss the S, your brain's going to look at it and go, RST. Or they might send RIG, RIG. You'll get the R, you'll get the I, you'll miss the G, but then you see ICOM 7300 coming as the next. You know, that word was RIG. So don't get too hung up on this perfect practice all the time. So those are some of the things that you've got to look at. And again, on your own is much more difficult than if you're doing it with a group. Number 4. Okay, you've studied, you know your letters, you can copy them down, you're doing really good. Remember to send them, right? Don't just sit there and listen, you have to send them as well. Now, when you get on the air, if you've been doing this on your own, do you know your protocols? You're not just going to be able to get on the air now that you've got all this knowledge and start typing, hey, I'm here, anybody want to talk to me? Doesn't quite work that way. Morse code is, I'm going to call it almost got like a ritual to it. There's a procedure. We call them protocols. Really, it's a procedure. Someone says something, someone answers in a certain way. That other person comes back with a whole sequence of items. Then it's back to the other person to send a sequence of items. You need to know the sequence. You need to know the procedure. You need to know the protocols. So again, expectation management. All I have to do is study and go on the air? No. A lot more to it than that. You also have to develop your copy skills. So you can sit there, you can listen to a machine, because remember, computers send perfect code. So it doesn't matter what practice page or app you're using, you're hearing perfect code. You won't hear that on the air. So part of what you have to do is, as you get better and as you learn to copy more, turn on your radio, listen to it. Immerse yourself in Morse code. Just spin the dials. Go to the POTA site. If you don't know what POTA is, it's POTA.app. They'll show you the frequencies. They'll show you the speed they're at. So in that particular case, dial them in. Listen to them. Can you copy the letters that you've studied? You may not get them all. If you miss a letter, put a space. Like I say, your brain will fill a lot of that in for you. So it's a process. It's a procedure. You're not going to learn all of this overnight. The other thing is, learn how to study, right? I'm going to call that point 6. Learn how to study. Most of us, we think all you got to do is sit in front of your computer and study and write away, and so on, blah, blah, blah. No. You need to have a process in place for when you study. You need to know what to study. There is a sequence of letters, and there's all sorts of different websites that have a sequence out. Most of them use the Koch, K-O-C-H sequence, and that's fine. I think probably the majority of the sites that I found when I was doing it on my own, that's what they used. So you need to know what to study. You need to know how to study. What should I be listening to? Sound, right? Sounds. You need to do that. You need to know what lesson or exercise to do so that when your brain hears a certain sound coming at you, it immediately translates it for you. And you're not sitting there going, was that da-dee-dee-dit or was it da-dee-dit? Right? You don't need to do that. It's sounds. So you've got to learn how to study. A good website will show you that. A good club, there's several out there that teach, will also show you that as well. Point number 7. You're going to hit a plateau sooner or later. So what's a plateau? Well, your brain takes in so much. You're learning this. Let's say you're learning, 18 letters or whatever it happens to be. You're doing really, really well. And then you get to the next lesson, and all of a sudden your brain says, no, I'm full. I'm tired. You've pushed me too far. And for a while, it's going to be very frustrating because letters that you think you know, or I'm pretty sure you know, you're going to mess up. And this could go on for a couple of days, could go on for a few weeks. But you as an individual will get more and more frustrated simply because things aren't going the way they were going before. So you had that very rapid rise when you first got into it, and everything was going just great for the first few weeks or months. And then all of a sudden your brain says, no, now you've got to power through that. You have to expect that. It will come at different speeds. 12 is one that a lot of people find this happens at. It may happen when you're just learning the numbers and the letters. It can happen at any time. Your job is to focus, stick to the studying, and power through it. It happens to everyone. You're not some poor student who will never get Morse code because it happens to you. Every single person who's learned Morse code has run into that at one time or another. So there will be periods where you'll be very frustrated because nothing seems to be going right. But if you keep at it, all of a sudden, boom, it's like a light goes on and the Morse code starts flowing in again. So don't panic over something like that. Number 8, practice your sending. Now, your expectations are that I can send, I know the letters, and you can get there on your key and you can pound them out and you're going to think, geez, I'm hot stuff. Really? How is your spacing? How is your spacing between the letters? How is your spacing between the words? Take your cell phone and record yourself sending. Record yourself something that you can understand and check. Can you understand what you sent? Were you blurring all your letters together? In other words, if I was sending my name, Keith, do I send it as Keith or do I send it as Keith? At whatever speed I want to send at 12 words a minute, 15, 20 words a minute. The person on the other end has to realize that you've sent a letter, that you've sent a word. One way to do that is if there's a DAW in the letter, sort of the end of the letter, you can just stretch that letter just a fraction over what you would normally send to DAW. And that signals to the other person that, that's the end of a word or whatever. So there are different ways of doing that. And again, the classes will teach you some of that. And I guess the other item, number 9, that I'm thinking of here, slow speed is good. Don't think you are going to get on the air immediately and you're just going to blast through the airwaves. We see movies, we hear people 25, 30, 45, all sorts of speeds. You'll get on the air probably 10 words a minute, 12 words a minute, maybe 13, depending on how much you practice. And you know what? That's perfect. Don't worry about it. Don't expect that you're going to get on the air or that in 6 months you're going to be sending at 25 words a minute. Highly unlikely. You will get there, though. Remember what I said, once you're on the air and you start to practice and you're out there talking to people, you will get better and you will get faster. It just comes naturally to you. So don't get hung up on having to reach high speeds immediately. There's nothing wrong with slow speed, which we call QRS. And you can go on to a lot of different websites and just post that you're QRS. There'll be lots of people to talk to you. And as I've put on other videos, if you check the Reverse Beacon Network, you can see just how many there are. SKCC, another website. Lots of people who will talk to you at 10 words a minute, 12, 15, whatever you're comfortable at. So don't get hung up and don't expect that you're going to suddenly become a master Morse code operator because you've been studying for 3 weeks, a month, 4 months. That's not going to happen. And the very last thing, number 10, don't expect your very first contact to just flow. It would be lovely if it does. It would be lovely if you could have a perfect first contact. The odds are you're going to be stressed to the max. You're going to blow letters that you know really well. You may even blow your own call sign for that matter. Everybody reacts in a different way to the first contact. So don't panic over it. And if it's not perfect, just move on. Practice sending it. Someone said the other day, it was a very good exercise. I've done it myself. Keep sending your call sign until you can send it 10 times without a mistake. If you make a mistake on the 9th time, you start over. You'd be surprised how fast you learn your call sign. And you have to learn, of course, to listen and pick it out of the noise when someone answers you as well. So prepare for your first contact. Know your protocols. What are you supposed to say when you're out there? What are you going to say when you answer somebody? Right? Remember, go back to those protocols, those procedures. So prep yourself for it. Don't panic. Everybody makes mistakes. Most people will tell you their first 4 or 5 contacts were the worst things they've ever done or sent. But they powered through it. They kept on, and they did it. And you can too. Keith, Victor Echo 3, Sierra Victor Quebec, and sometimes Victor Alpha 3, Kilo Echo India. Wishing you lots of luck learning CW, and maybe we'll hear you on the air. 73. Have a great day.